$10 says that Waterfalls is, we're going to know shit's about to go down when, like, in the last episode, the sorority house is, like, abandoned and it's just, like, the final girl walking around and that starts playing. Calling it. Boom. Calling that shit. Welcome back to The Horror with Mike.
And Nate.
On this episode, we are going into Scream Queens, Killer Theories for Episode 4, Haunted House. I didn't feel like I did a good enough job in researching the killer theories for the first 3 episodes. The first 3 episodes, I watched 4 hours apiece, pausing it, taking screenshots, rechecking facts, blah, 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 to try and get as good as I can with the 4 episodes. Now we can legitimately start making killer theories. One thing I noticed in episode 1, tracking deaths, is Miss Bean. So Miss Bean and Chanel, they talk about their plan. I'm going to dunk you in the fry. You're going to pretend like you die. It's going to scare everybody away. Until we saw her dead body again, it was always kind of a thing. I would assume everybody was thinking that they just pulled that off to even trick us. But now we know Miss Bean is dead. And it brings up the point, unless Emma is the killer, who turned on the fryer and who knew that that was their plan? The only 2 characters who were around to hear them come up with that plan are Pete, but Pete's too obvious in that scene. Like, you are very conscious that Pete is right the fuck there. Right after that, Grace is up at the front of the register. Spoiler alert, I think Grace is the killer. She only ever sees the Red Devil when she's alone. This is my whatever so far. Concrete, this is what I say. Melanie did not see the Red Devil after she was sprayed with the tanning, and the Red Devil mascot popped into her head, and she was like, that's the Batman.
Right, that was
That's
the birth.
what I'm going to use. That is my monster, which is born in this moment. That is until I'm proven wrong, that is my whatever.
Okay.
So she is at least working with Grace. Aaron Cohen. Again, this only proves that I'm fucking right about looking up last names. Aaron Cohen. Very rare that you get a character with a last name if they're not one of the 5 main characters. It's extremely rare to get that character's full name in like the very first sentence you're introduced to him. So when Coney introduces himself, he's like, a week ago I was just Aaron Cohen. Blah. And then he says his name again. And he's like, now Aaron Cohen is not going to dental school. The big thing is as you look through the list of names that Pete finds in episode 2, one of the names was Greenwell. If you look at it again, one of the other names is Cohen. Again, concrete theory until proven wrong. Cohen is the last name of the girl who died in the tub. She had Aaron. Aaron, who was given the costume by Dean Munch. I think it's going to be a great piece of tragic irony, being that we know at least 2 killers are working together, that one of them killed Coney because Coney was the new mascot, and it just made sense to that killer be like, oh, we got to get rid of the new mascot, prove our point. Not realizing the connection, and the baby that we think is the big fucking mystery of this show, that big mystery was accidentally befuddled by the killer, herself, and the baby is already dead and was Coney. That's going to be a big joke come episode 6 or 7.
Right.
Be like,
yeah.
Like, oh, mystery, not important.
I was expecting them to flip the script in a creative way.
Another big thing with Grace. So the scene where she's in front of the house and first sees the Red Devil. That scene is not literal. I am making that statement until proven wrong. That is another one of my rock solid statements. That never happened. When she's walking to the Red Devil on the corner, the Red Devil completely disappears, but we see this in slasher movies all the time. She passes 3 women walking in line, all in white nightgowns with candles, who then basically proceed to disappear. That spells nightmare to me. Yeah. I think, and I am 100% saying until proven wrong, that scene did not actually happen, and it was a nightmare of the killer looking forward to and scared of what she was about to have to become. Red Devil shows up when Pete goes into the dean's office, breaks in at night. The Red Devil was already inside the room then, waiting for him, and knocks him out and puts the mind your own business. No other person, unless we get some flashback that explains it, knew that he was going there that night. He was breaking in. The only person who knew that that's where he was going was Grace. If it does end up being just 2 killers, 2 people we know 100% aren't. Chad and Eric. Earl Grey?
Earl Grey.
Are not, because 2 killers are present when they're both present. When Gigi gets attacked at the end of episode 3, all the girls run downstairs. The 2 that are missing are Candle Vlogger, Neck brace, of course, has a million reasons why she's the killer. But anyway, she's not there for that part. Where the fuck was she? Chanel 3 and her earmuffs. That's Carrie Fisher's daughter.
Oh, then that might just be the earmuffs right there.
Yeah, exactly. So
a cute reference.
I was whatevering that until I figured that out, and I'm like, oh, again, clever.
Yeah.
When she's down when Grace is in the basement, episode 2, she finds in that box with the bloody yellow dress, she finds a party mix. And that's her dad's thing.
Yeah.
Is to make party mixes.
Yeah, he's like Mr. Playlist.
Yeah, and make specific playlists. If nothing, I don't know if he's the killer, I don't know, whatever, but it will be revealed 100% that the dad was there at the party and made that playlist. The episode starts, and this is actually, it opens with text, which we haven't gotten before.
No, we haven't.
1, what is this telling us? Who made this and who is showing this to us? This sounds to me like, this to me broken down says that this is somebody being shown to like a jury. Like this is when shit started going wrong. And this is the first instances we have of all of it.
It could be. I also picked up on back in 2015.
Right.
And all this. I was watching it as a fan film. Made by one of these sad girls that obviously worshipped her. In the event of her death, there probably would have been a ton of these tribute videos. It plays your way, then it's something being shown to a jury.
Mm-hmm.
If it plays my way, it's something being shown in memoriam.
This is a big killer theory that, 1, I would like to see, 2, is creepy as fuck, and could very, very well be where this show is going. There was quite a bit of them. You would have to agree, at least on that off the bat, though, right?
Oh, yeah, I mean...
This shit was sinister to me.
Yeah,
and it was hilarious.
It definitely, no matter how you slice it, felt like something that was being played after something bad happened.
It really felt sinister. But again, I have to say, I thought that she's never been more charming.
Never.
And this is probably the funniest bit that the show has ever done. And I was laughing out loud at almost everything.
And I won't go so far as to say that it made me like Chanel. I would go so far as to say, though, that for the first time, I didn't hate her.
Oh, God. I already liked her, and I was already whatever. I think I fell in love with Chanel. I like crazy chicks, and she was so into Halloween and stuff.
And
too funny.
She was still condescending, and she was still superior and arrogant and everything, but for the first time, it wasn't pure venomous meanness.
Right.
She was in her own way. She was trying to be
sweet
nice.
And not. I love that.
And it was a fail. She was still mean as shit, but it wasn't on purpose this time.
Yes.
So that was a small but enormous change in her character. And then, because usually she's just mean
for people, but she cannot be a good person.
And then what makes
even
it
when
funny
she's trying
is that these people think that it's great too,
and so they only feed into her fucking.
So it's not humiliating; it's empowering to them, and that was it was well played.
Comic gold. When she's in the little car and stuff, I was dying. I love it. In that song, it's like, it's all about you. Like, it sounded like one of those like cancer commercials you have to watch where it's like celebrating children. She's so psycho. I fell in love with her. Her line that I was like, yep, this is the girl I would want to marry. I love Halloween. It's the one day where you can go around terrorizing children and not be branded a psychopath. God. All my killer theories on this part. Very interesting. Also, in every single card she sends to people, it says, can't wait to see you in person. Now, you could take that very well as where she goes to that one chick's house, but then she specifically points out in that part, oh, this girl posts whatever, so I'm going to see her, as opposed to the other people who are coming to see her. Mm-hmm. So what I think the overall, and it's creepy, again, my overall killer theory right now that I'm pretty much set on until it doesn't happen, is that it's Grace and the spray tan chick. But this is a cool theory. All of her 72 people who like love her are like her cult. And so she gets them to come into town to like do her bidding and fuck stuff up. It brings up the idea that season 2, to keep her out of the show so she doesn't have to like sign on to it, but she can be in whatever, is she'll be locked up in prison and they have to like keep her from still pen paling and creating new minions. It gets razor blade apples. So if razor blade apples come up as a theory, as a way to kill people later in the show, that might be that girl's MO now. Oh, one thing that we do is the MVP, which we actually already put up on Twitter this morning, right? But I think we both agreed that it was Pete doing Matthew McConaughey. That was a fucking priceless, spot-on impression.
Yeah, up until that scene, and honestly, even after that scene, the kid is still,
Yeah, exactly. As far as that scene goes, things to keep in mind about that. Okay, we've heard that Jamie Lee Curtis is in the bathroom in 1995. We've heard that from Chanel, who says that it's only a legend she heard. We hear it from this lady, who's unreliable because it's very obvious she's fucking crazy. So, don't be surprised if it turns out that Jamie Lee Curtis was never actually in the 1995 thing. Very well could be, but it has never been shown to us in a real fashion. Mm-hmm. It's always people telling stories. Okay, and so she goes on to mention, and the writers go out of their way to broadly, but still, give us an update on the 4 girls, at least, who were in the bathroom that night. One of them, we know who that is. It's this chick. She went crazy. Another one, she says, killed herself, supposedly. Another one was institutionalized. Another became a Fox News anchor, which, specifically, at the beginning of this episode, that's what Chanel says she wants to be.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably going to end up having a big part to do with Chanel's ending arc for at least this season. Okay, another one was institutionalized. I bet you that's Gigi.
Probably so, yes.
And so, I mean, it's pretty much whatever can be assumed until it's disproven that Gigi is the brunette who originally found her, came downstairs with the blood. You know what I mean? Right?
Probably.
Yeah. Until disproven, that's a hell of a safe bet. It feels like that was pretty much pointed out. One thing I do have to point out that I didn't like about the episode, and I hope it changes, but I do not like this Earl Grey guy at all. I do not like this whole, like, British preppy thing. Like, I'm not going for it. This is what bothers me about him. His British accent, I don't care if it's real, sounds like a horribly fake British accent.
It sounds like an affectation.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I haven't researched him. I don't know if that's his actual accent or if it's going to be a ha-ha-za moment of the show. I don't really care. But it rubs me way the wrong way. The next scene where they're all carving pumpkins. Again, visual cleverness and visual callbacks, things like that. Later episodes, you go back and rewatch the series, you're like, oh my god, their pumpkins all represented this, that, the other. Predatory lesbians, pumpkin is somebody who's drunk. Chanel number 5 is Manson. Again, makes sense. Right. Very central character, whatever. Neck braces is Chad. Again, very central thing with her. Then Grace's, which I thought was really funny because I agree with you, she's the most boring character on the show. But I think she's the killer overall thus far until proven wrong. So that I think is them overcompensating by making her bland because they want to like not show any part of her personality. You know what I mean? But funny enough, her pumpkin is like, mine's just a regular pumpkin and I know you're going to hate it. That's the writer saying, we know she's regular and boring and you hate her, but this is who she is.
Right.
Like, just deal with it because everybody else is crazy enough. Zayde's, yes, I can. Again, totally in character. Candle vlogger. Hers is Hurricane Andrew destroying Florida.
Yeah.
What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah. Also, I'd like to say, it was the worst pumpkin of the bunch. Grace's pumpkin was way better.
I just have to point this out, that the next scene with Chanel upset that Zayde's running for president, and she's just sharpening knives at 3 o'clock in the morning and crying. I don't know, maybe I just have a thing for crazy chicks. No offense to any exes who might possibly listen to this. But it's just like, that's who I would much rather date that chick. I'm dead serious. I would much rather date that chick than fucking Grace. I don't know if this is important, but it could end up being in the fucking classic scene with Chad jerking off. This is Fox. In one scene, we get a guy jerking off to dead bodies and a fucking anal sex joke.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, Fox, you are the dirtiest network.
Yeah, definitely. He likes to just rub one out on a tombstone.
Jesus Christ. Then they go to the Shady Lane, and finally, Hempfield finally like comes back into the episode and gets to be funny and awesome again. And
get a contextual tie to the main plot line.
Yes, finally. Hopefully that
now
means that she sticks around. Now she's in the suspect
pool. She has a historical tie to the past generation and the sorority. So.
I guess it means that she's my favorite character that I don't want. She's the only character I don't want it to be her. I want her to be sweet and funny and not a fucking murderer.
I like that it cements her role in the show.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I like. That teleportation joke that they give her fucking killed me. You guys, of course, know what I'm talking about. She doesn't actually teleport, but she's talking across this room to Zayday. She's like, meet me in the other room. Zayday turns around and she's like in her face.
Right.
You mentioned something on Twitter about when they go into the haunted house, Chad says, oh, left all the candles. Again, fucking candle blogger. She's the only person who would bother to go through all that trouble.
Now, for
unless
me,
it's just a satire.
That didn't even occur to me till later. That struck a chord with me personally because this is a horror movie trope where there are hundreds of candles around the church or around the house, and it's like, logistically, if you think about it, it would take well over an hour just to light all the goddamn candles. So, like, in the middle of all this foolishness, the fact that he actually says something logical... just cracked me up. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, who would light all these candles? Yeah.
Okay, so that pretty much brings us to this episode's big reveal that Gigi is the old hag of 53rd whatever.
I'll get into this more next week.
Sure.
Because I'd sort of mentioned the idea of, some sort of killer sorority, like Scream Queens being literal.
Right.
And what if there are multiple killers not working in concert, each... with their own pathology? We think that it's always, this is the Red Devil killer. What if there is a Red Devil killer, but then there's an additional killer who's like, oh shit, now I can kill somebody, and I'll just dress as the Red Devil because I know this Red Devil guy is already out there.
Right, which I personally hope you're not correct about because, damn it.
So it can lead to collusion between killers, or it can lead to killers with separate agendas that don't even know about each other. It can be played several different ways.
Right, and... I think I already mentioned it on Scream anyway. I fucking hope they don't do that because that's how I would end my fucking slasher movie. It's like, we've never seen that, but that to me makes sense. And that's something also...
that's why Zadie has a chainsaw, because...
everyone is a killer. And if a killer in a mask came to your town, people would be like, oh, well, shit. I'll just get a mask too and blame it on this fucking killer. That's why it has a different MO every time. For the only reason... that I don't want. I was like, damn it, that's my $1 million idea. Like, I still have yet to see it done. Every slasher movie I ever watch, I'm always scared that that's going to be the reveal. I'm dead serious. I'm like, well, there goes my fucking idea.
Right.
But it is a cool idea, I have to say. I do agree.
Yeah.
I just hope you're not right. But so you think, that she would be somebody who killed one of the people because everyone has their own reason.
Right.
Exactly. And it makes much more logistical sense than 1 to 2 people having to be here and there and da-da-da-da-da. It can be more random because, whatever. Anyway.
Right. It can be different people under the mask for different reasons.
And
even
then it
across
makes it,
purposes.
Logistically a lot more reasonable that somebody could be in all these places.
Right.
Anyway, you mentioned the whole Scream Queens as a sorority. I brought that up at the beginning of the first episode, and I'll kind of end this one with it, is why is it called Scream Queens if the next season, let's say, doesn't take place in a sorority? And won't have Jamie Lee Curtis. We talked about a bit of that. It ties into my theory of this episode that I think the episode, which is that if Chanel does have her cult of people, they're the Scream Queens. And that's what she would call all of her minions that she gets to kill people or do whatever it is that she gets them to do.
Right.
Just this year, with everything going bad, that's when she was like, I'm calling in all the troops. You guys are psycho, willing to kill for me.
Yep.
I'm calling you in. Which I think the show is pointing towards, that she would refer, you're my Scream Queens. And then, if she survives this season and gets locked up in prison or whatever, you don't know how many other Scream Queens are out there.
Right.
And so it's still a murder mystery and it's still a whatever. And Ryan Murphy won't put it past him that the killer ends up being revealed to be a guy. One of them is a guy at the end. He's like, I'm a queen, babe. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, you can't even put that across it. So you still get your...
I mean, they set that up with Boone in episode 2.
Oh, God, you're right. We're just waiting for that joke to come around. So, wanted to save this for the end. Just get your thoughts on it. What did you think of the fight scene in the cafeteria?
It absolutely didn't make an impression on me whatsoever.
Wow.
It was, I was like, a revenge daydream fantasy from
wish
any
fulfillment,
woman that's ever been
thing.
catcalled at. And it was very broadly drawn and felt like it was something from like maybe a movie from the 90s, which maybe that's what they were affecting. It didn't get a laugh out of me. I was like, there wasn't anything sharp or clever about it. It was just, hey, I'm catcalling you. Oh, well, we're not going to take that. We're sisters, and we're going to beat your ass. Okay, I get it.
Right.
Didn't make an impression on me.
Yeah, okay. That was the scene that I thought stuff was funny. I thought that if they don't fuck it up, this is a classic show. That was one of the best things I've seen. It's between that and Colin Farrell's Dream, the best thing I've seen on TV this year. Like, that was genuinely amazing. Yes, it has problems on the surface because it is just that wish fulfillment BS stuff that you see. But it was one of the most ingenious, great fucking things that this show has done, building character and forging a new way forward for the show. Right before that all starts happening, they're all being terrible. They're all with each other. They're eating the cotton balls. She specifically says, we can't be that. Chanel changes in these moments and becomes a likable character because she says, we can't do this anymore. Makes the decision, fuck it, I'm going to go get pizza. That's when the guy walks up. Altogether, I thought this was, the best scene this show has done. It's going to be hard to beat it. And it did pretty much the impossible and made Chanel likable.
It did make an impression on me, but you liked it so much, now I want to hate on it. And also, speaking of Zayde, something that totally surprised me, her and then Earl Grey, the only person of color in the Dickie Dollar Scholars, float what I thought was a really interesting concept. Oh, well, the Greek system is on the way out. People like us could really step in and give it new life. I didn't expect that kind of plot development, but it was an interesting character-building plot device for both of them that made them both seem smarter and better characters.
This is the first episode that I was like, this might be a true classic that I rewatch a lot. They've been funny, they've been, twists and turns and typical stuff. This was the first episode where they started leaking in ulterior motives. It feels like if they keep going with that one in particular, that what they're going to try and want to do with this show is reform how people look at sororities. Because nobody likes sorority movies other than people who want to be in one day or have been in one. Maybe them. Because they're all just dude bras and drinking and hazing, and the show might just give them a good name. I don't think in media that fraternities and sororities have good names.
Oh no, definitely they're always the bad guys.
Yeah,
in college movies,
debauchery,
in learning how to ski movies, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
The fratties and the sorority girls, they're always the bad guys.
Yeah.
So it's a surprise to see actual character development on sort of like a cheeky, spoofy horror comedy show. But it's nice because horror, comedy, one thing that is true for both, the more you identify and sympathize with the characters, the better reaction you're going to get.
Right.
It makes scares scarier, it makes jokes funnier if it has a context of character. This is comedy-wise what makes Arrested Development so funny.
Yes.
The more you watch it, the more that you feed into that context. So the character development, but there were also some pretty good jokes, like the How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days theme costumes. It was funny for me because it's like, oh, how perfect these two characters would choose this movie. Like, one of the worst possible movies you could possibly choose for a Halloween theme costume. I forget, Grace is, she's the protagonist, the outsider, trying to figure out what's going on. She also wanted to pledge a sorority. This is the type of girl that would like these terrible Matthew McConaughey rom-coms.
True.
So, oh yeah, I forget she's a dumbass sorority girl. I don't know. I thought it was
again,
funny.
Dumbass sorority girl. Hopefully they're going to try and change all that. Well, I don't think they're not going to be able to, but I like the idea that I think that might be an undercurrent that goes through it.
We'll see how the season plays out.
But anyway, okay, so that will do it for this episode of Killer Theories. We will see you next time, guys, here